Back in 1968, a book was published that asked a question so wild, so out there, it completely shook up our view of human history. And you know what? It kicked off a pop culture phenomenon that's still going strong today. So, in this explainer, we're going to dive right into the explosive ideas from Erich von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods and ask, what if everything we've been told about our ancient past is just wrong?
And this, right here, is the question that started it all. It's a simple idea, really, but the implications are huge. What if the divine beings our ancestors worshipped, the ones who came down from the heavens, weren't gods at all, but were actually visitors from another planet?
So this whole idea has a name, the ancient astronaut theory. And it's not just that aliens dropped by for a quick visit. Nope. The theory says they actively shaped our development, that they kick-started our civilizations and left behind all these clues that for thousands of years we've just been misinterpreting as myths and miracles.
Okay, so let's get into it. The author, Erich von Daniken, he wasn't trying to write a book with all the answers. Actually, his goal was kind of the opposite. He wanted to challenge the answers we thought we had. He wanted to make us stop and really question what we know about our own story. The basic idea is this. Our ancestors weren't just making up fantastical stories. When they wrote about gods descending from the sky in fiery chariots, von Daniken says they were actually creating a kind of historical record. It was the only way they knew how to describe seeing technology and beings so advanced they just couldn't possibly explain them.
So, what's the actual case that von Daniken puts forward? Well, let's open up the evidence file, so to speak. We're going to look at the key arguments he uses to build this whole theory piece by compelling piece. All right, the first major piece of evidence is literally built from stone and earth. Von Daniken points to these massive, incredible ancient monuments all over the world and asks a really tough question. How could ancient people, with what we think were just simple tools, have possibly built these things?
I mean, just think about it for a second. The unbelievable mathematical precision of the Great Pyramids, the perfect astronomical alignments at Stonehenge, or the Nazca lines in Peru, these gigantic drawings that you can only really see and understand from way up in the sky. The theory suggests that either the knowledge to do this, or maybe even the direct help, had to have come from somewhere else, some source that was way more advanced.
Okay, next up, the argument shifts from looking at giant structures to reading ancient scriptures. The whole idea here is that we should go back and reread these ancient religious and mythological texts, but not as spiritual stories. Instead, we should read them as literal descriptions of technology just seen through the eyes of someone from the ancient world.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Take the Bible, for example. Ezekiel's vision of fiery clouds and wheels within wheels gets reinterpreted as a very detailed description of a spacecraft landing. Or the flying vimanas you read about in ancient Indian texts. Maybe not mythical chariots, but actual advanced aircraft. It completely reframes these stories we've known for centuries.
The third claim argues that the proof isn't just in what our ancestors built or what they wrote, but also in what they drew and carved into stone. What if all that ancient art wasn't just symbolic? What if it was a visual record of who, or maybe what, they actually saw with their own eyes? The book is full of examples of art from all across the globe. You've got figures that look like they're wearing helmets and spacesuits, like the super famous Palenque astronaut carving on a Mayan tomb lid. You've got cave paintings in Africa and Australia of these strange, non-human looking beings. And it forces you to ask, are these just symbols for gods, or are they portraits of actual visitors?
Of course, you can't propose a theory this radical and not expect some serious pushback. So, now that we've seen the case for ancient astronauts, let's bring in the cross-examination from the world of mainstream science and history.
The biggest counter-argument really hits the theory at its very foundation. Mainstream scientists and historians argue that saying ancient people needed alien help is actually a huge underestimation of their intelligence and their creativity. Archaeologists have spent decades figuring out and even testing totally plausible ways these structures could have been built, using brilliant engineering, huge numbers of workers, and a deep understanding of astronomy, all without any need for extraterrestrial help. And when you boil it all down, the number one criticism from skeptics is this: there's just no smoking gun. There's no piece of alien metal, no circuit board that couldn't have been made on Earth. They argue the entire theory is built by taking existing evidence and just reinterpreting it to fit a cool idea. It's fascinating speculation for sure, but it's not the kind of solid, testable proof that science requires.
But here's the thing. Whether you're a true believer or a total skeptic, the impact this book has had is absolutely undeniable. So let's shift gears and talk about its incredible cultural legacy and how this one book snowballed into a global phenomenon.
I mean, Chariots of the Gods basically created an entire genre. It directly inspired hit TV shows. Yeah, you know the one, Ancient Aliens. It influenced decades of science fiction movies and books, and it poured rocket fuel on the public's fascination with UFOs. It literally started a debate that's still going strong today.
And if you really want to understand the power of this idea,
Just look at that number. Over 70 million copies sold worldwide. Clearly, the questions this book asked resonated with a lot of people, cementing it not just as a bestseller, but as a genuine cultural landmark.
So, why does all this matter? Well, the crazy success of this book tells us something really important about ourselves. Think about when it came out, the late 1960s. The space race was at its peak, people were questioning authority everywhere, and there was this huge cultural obsession with the great unknown. The book tapped right into that. It shows that we have this deep need to question the official story and a timeless fascination with the biggest questions there are. Where did we come from? And are we alone out here?
In the end, the book's most powerful and lasting legacy isn't an answer, it's a question. It doesn't ask you to believe in aliens, it just asks you to wonder, to question everything you take for granted about our own history, and to just consider for a moment, what if?